So, welcome, Nadia.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. A little bit tired, needless to say, because I've just finished my placement, but really, really good. Very happy. Very happy to be speaking
Fantastic.
to you this evening.
Good, good. I'm so glad. We've texted a couple of times while you've been on your placement. I've read a few of your messages, and it's been great to just take this time now to catch up with you properly. We're gonna really talk about your placement in just a few minutes, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Before that, I would love to get to know you a bit better and hear a bit more about your story and why you came into physiotherapy, if that's
Mhm.
okay. I know that you've got some stuff to talk about because I know snippets of it from what you've said when we've
Mhm.
been in class and stuff. So, yeah, why did you choose to study physiotherapy?
So, I'm not sure how obvious this is, but I am a mature student. I don't mind disclosing my age. So,
Not obvious at all.
I'm in my 30s. So the reason why I'm saying this is because this means that I haven't come fresh out of school and it's not been a lifelong dream of mine to be a physiotherapist. I feel like it is now that I know more about physiotherapy, but I didn't, when I was at school and people asked what I wanted to do or be, physiotherapist wasn't kind of at the top of the list.
Mm,
However, what was at the top of the list was working in healthcare and working with people. I knew I definitely wanted to do that.
yeah.
And I think the reason why, just kind of going back to what I was saying, the reason why I physiotherapy wasn't at the top of my list is because I just I basically didn't know enough about physiotherapy, and I think if I speak to other people about what a physiotherapist does, I think society as a whole they don't really know much about what us physiotherapists or us students as and physiotherapists do. A lot of people think that when they think of physiotherapists, they think of uh, the people on the football pitches or the people working in rugby teams or cricket teams. And I was
Yeah.
exactly the same. I am, very much into sport. I'm very much, about keeping fit and healthy, but I never really thought about being a sports therapist or a personal trainer. And unfortunately, I did fall into the category that are quite ignorant, let's say, to what physiotherapists do. And yeah, so I decided that wasn't my first choice when I left school. Put it
Right.
that way. But since then, I have learned way more about physiotherapists and what physiotherapists do. And they don't all work on the football pitch or with rugby players or with cricket players or within sport or within MSK. So, um, yeah.
Cool. What kind of thing are you interested in within physiotherapy? What kind of areas have piqued your interest so far?
So far, I am really interested in cardiorespiratory. And the reason being is because back in 2011, unfortunately, my dad had quite a bad accident at work, and he fell off a ladder, and he was put in an induced coma. So he was
Oh
in
no.
ICU for 9 weeks.
Wow.
Well, he was asleep for 9 weeks, and he was in the intensive care unit for about 12 weeks. And in that time, that's when I started to learn more about physiotherapists, believe it or not. And it
Yeah.
was in ICU when I saw them, clearing. I'll use the word phlegm, not sputum, because not everyone might know what sputum is. So I saw them kind of clearing phlegm from his chest. I saw them positioning my dad every so often. I saw all the manual techniques that they did whilst treating him, and I just thought it was absolutely incredible. They looked like absolute superheroes, as well as the doctors and the nurses and the OTs and everyone else that was in ICU with him. But I just remember being completely fascinated by the physiotherapists.
Yeah.
So cardio resp and ICU has, I think from a personal experience, I've been most drawn to it. However, I found it most difficult in our first year, but I was quite relieved. I think because I was most interested in it, I managed to get my higher mark during my written exams in cardio rest, so I was quite happy with that. But yeah,
good,
interesting.
oh, fantastic.
So, and just the general kind of area of physiotherapists, you know, helping people in a community setting and in an acute setting as well. So anywhere in healthcare.
Wow, fantastic. That's a really good story. I mean, that's the fact that you got that personal connection to that. You've already seen a little bit of it as well. That's really interesting. Thank you. And what about you then? So tell us a bit about yourself and kind of your process from leaving school, working, and then you know, finally deciding to become a physiotherapist.
Yeah. So as I said, growing up, I always knew that I wanted to help people, and I always knew that I wanted to go into healthcare. And I am very passionate around mental health. So every time I come across anyone who's in mental health, or I know that mental health physios exist now, so that's that's another area that I'm very interested. So that gets me very excited. So I actually did my first degree in psychology and counselling up north, so up in the University of Chester. And I progressed from doing that to becoming an addictions counsellor. So I worked in a rehab before a couple of years before COVID began. It was a private rehab. It was more focused on talking therapy, which I absolutely loved. But I still kind of felt like I wasn't in the right place. It wasn't completely me. Unfortunately, everything about the job was amazing, and I was very proud to call myself an addictions therapist. But I just didn't feel like it was the right job for me, and plus it was very stressful as well. For me, working with people in addiction was quite tough, and it can be quite tough. But for me personally, it wasn't really something that I could do long term. It might be something that I can go back to, you know, alongside doing my physiotherapy when I'm older. But at this stage of my life, you know, it wasn't something that I could do kind of long term.
Yeah.
So because I'm very kind of interested in mental health and therapy, I then decided to train to become a massage therapist. And I learned a whole bunch of holistic treatments like reflexology, Reiki, hot stone, meditation, lots of lovely kind of holistic slash spiritual treatments, along with my massage therapy. And and I absolutely loved it. I have my own business, so I work from home. But I always knew that I wanted a tiny bit more, and I always knew that I kind of belonged in a hospital setting, maybe, or in a clinical setting. I just kind of, you know, I just felt very drawn to being around a more clinical kind of environment. So hence, luckily for some, or unluckily, COVID came about, and you know, I was unable to work, which meant that I had more time to think about what I really wanted in life, and I didn't use lack of time as an excuse not to not to apply for a course. So I had the time to apply. I did think about it, but I knew that it was something that I wanted to do at the same time, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I applied for the course, got the interview, and here I am.
Fantastic. Well, that's absolutely brilliant. It sounds to me like you had a lot of I mean, not belittling it at all, but you had a lot of different things that you were really interested in, like the massage therapy and the mental health side of it, the social science, the social science skills. You have all of those things, and you kind of put them all together at one time and said, how do these all fit together? Physiotherapy, and that was that sounds really good.
I think just for all the kind of mature students who have had, other experiences in other areas, you can use a lot of these skills. A lot of the skills that people have acquired are transferable, so you can use them within physiotherapy. And I think that that's one of the biggest things that I learned on my first placement in the community. When I saw a patient with mental health issues, I was like a duck to water, in the situation. And the fact that I've got a lot of experience working within mental health and working within addiction and being a counsellor, I was able to kind of work with my patients in maybe a way that I might have not been able to work with them if I didn't have that experience and those skills.
Yes, so, understandable. Yeah. I bet your practice educator loved you as soon as you said, I used to work in mental health, and I bet they love that, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, cool. It was really nice because a lot of the time they would ask me about what I thought about patients with mental health or patients who didn't have mental health issues. So they really asked for my input, and they really asked what I thought about the patient, and whilst knowing my background. So I definitely felt included. But I'm not saying that those who do their A levels and go straight into becoming a physiotherapist, aren't going to do a great job, because of course they're going to do a great job. But we just have, as individuals, we just have different things that we can offer when we come into a course like physiotherapy.
Yeah. As a mature student as well. Well, that's great to hear from my point of view. So that's good. So you decided to do your placement early. The rest of us are starting our placements on Monday. What was it like? Where were you? What were you doing? Tell us about it.
Okay, so I was at a hospital called Clay Ponds. This hospital is a rehabilitation hospital in West London, so in Ealing. However, I wasn't based in the hospital, even though, I want to be in the hospital. I wasn't based in the hospital. I was based in the community, which simply means that I would go to my patients' homes, and I would do kind of the assessments and the work within their homes. Placement in general was absolutely incredible. I think I said to my tutor, so kind of in the second week of having placement, you'll speak to your link tutor, so one of the tutors from the university. That's right. I said to her that I didn't want to go back to King's. I wanted to be on placement forever, or just wanted to be on placement until I qualify, because I feel like, you already know this, Damien, but I'm a very practical person. So I learn better when I'm in a practical setting where I can do things rather than sitting at the laptop and reading, lots and lots of information kind of in one go. I retain a little bit more information. Well, I did whilst being on placement, rather than kind of sitting and reading articles.
Yes.
So, I really, really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved that way of learning. And I think for me now, I've completely understood, my learning style. I think, before I knew it, or I thought I knew it, but now I definitely know that this is kind of, I'm going to definitely excel. When I am in the placement environment.
It's really funny you mention that, because in my introduction, which people listening would have already heard, they'd be going, I'm sure they've collaborated on this. I talked about learning styles, and I talked about different ways in which we approach learning, and how we're all a blend of different learning styles, and that this podcast is the aim. One of the aims of it is to make sure that we're covering different learning styles, by having people interact. And I find that I learn best, or my favorite way to learn is when I'm in groups of people and I'm talking to people, having conversations like I'm having a conversation with you now. And even though I'm not learning any details about physiotherapy, I'm learning so much more about what I want to achieve and what wants to happen. So for me, that I'm like you in that way as well. I'm much more interactive in that. So just on the day-to-day of what you were doing on your placement, obviously you can't mention anything confidential. You've got patient confidentiality things to talk about as well. But what kind of things did you come across?
Okay, so do you mean in terms of conditions, or kind of what I did kind of day to day, or just in general?
What stands out for you? If someone who isn't a physiotherapy student, a member of your family, for example, said to you, what was placement like? What's the first thing you're going to say?
Oh gosh. Well, I definitely know how to adapt to home now, if you need assistance within the home.
Okay.
Definitely. So a lot of the patients that I saw so I worked in a team called Discharge to Assess. Now, what we do is, so the patients who are discharged from acute hospital will be referred on to us if they need a bit of extra support at home.
Yes.
And we had a KPI of 2 hours, which means that we needed to see our patients within 2 hours of discharge.
That's a key performance indicator.
Yeah, to meet the target. So that's what we do. We'd go over to the patient's house and we would assess the home environment, and we would assess them doing functional activities. Now, functional activities would mean kind of transferring from their sofa or their chair or where they usually sit. And then I'd ask them to transfer from the toilet seat, or show me how they would use the shower, show me what they would do in the kitchen, and show me how they would climb the stairs, and show me how they would kind of get into bed. So the main functional activities that we do within the home, I would assess them. If the patient needed any assistance with these activities, the physiotherapy team would be responsible for ordering the equipment, assistive devices that we've learned in lectures, to help the patient kind of do their functional activities kind of with ease. If they needed kind of further assistance, then social services would be involved, and a package of care plan would be in place.
Right.
That means that carers would come in and help them. Or if the patient lived with family members and they were happy to help their family members, then that would be good as well, because the family members could help the patient. Our main priority was to make sure that their environment was safe, and most of all, the patient was safe. So however we could make the patient safe within their own home, that's the aim. That was our aim.
Yeah.
So
fantastic.
Kind of going over to patients' houses, and these patients had been discharged from hospital, so they were seen as medically optimized. So they were seen as medically, ready to leave hospital.
Yeah.
So they weren't too poorly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I was just going to quickly touch on that briefly. The patients, where were they coming from? What kind of illnesses had they experienced, or falls, or what was it that they been discharged from?
Yeah, so the patients that we saw were mainly elderly patients, and unfortunately there is a correlation between elderly people and falls, and that could be a number of reasons. So that could be to do with muscle weakness, or contracting infections like urinary tract infections, which can affect a person's cognitive state, which can also lead to them being confused and falling over. So falls was our main one, and urinary tract infections was a big one. Also, I noticed that quite a lot of patients had COPD as well. I knew that it was common because Mike Gara in our lectures had said that it was a common condition, but it was one of those things where I thought, oh, okay, well, it's common, but I don't know anyone with COPD. But
No.
but a lot of patients that I saw in my 5 weeks of being on placement were suffering with COPD.
Wow.
So they're the main ones, really. Some had mental health issues. Some had, I had one patient who had Parkinson's, but I didn't see many kind of neurological conditions because I wasn't in the neuro team.
No.
So a lot of the patients with neurological issues would be referred to the neuro team.
Yeah.
So I didn't see many. However, on the second to last day, I did kind of get myself into the inpatient area in the hospital, which I was very excited about. And I spent some time on the wards. I actually spent time in the neuro wards because I'd heard that the neuro module is quite difficult in year 2. So I thought I need to get my foot in the door ASAP. So
Okay.
I got in the wards, and it was super interesting, and that's kind of where I saw more stroke patients and people with neurological conditions, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. That sounds like you've had a really well-rounded and interesting and exciting placement.
Yeah. I have actually, and being in the community as well, I'd kind of forgotten about being in the community. I thought that when we would be allocated our placements, instantly I'd be in one of the big hospitals in London. I'd be in ICU, I'd be in neuro, because a lot of people had told me that that's where year ones go. They go to ICU or they go to neuro. They don't really go anywhere else. So I was quite shocked to be in the community, but then at the same time, I was quite happy as well, because I thought that being in a hospital would be a big hospital would be far too frightening for me. But I don't know. I mean, I don't have the experience of being in an acute hospital, so I'm not sure. But it is, when you are assessing a patient, say in a ward, it is quite different to when you're assessing a patient in the community, because the ward
in their own home as well, isn't it? It's
in their home, because in the ward it's quite a controlled environment, and you don't have to worry about the sofa, or you don't have to worry about where you're going to put the perching stool, or where the recliner chair is going to be, or if they've got room in their bathroom to have the equipment that's needed in the bathroom, or if their family members are happy to have added stair rails, or if they're happy to have a stair lift, or if they're happy to have a freestanding toilet frame that we could put in the bathroom. Not only are we getting consent from the patient, we need to get consent from the family as well. And when I'm in the ward, I won't be worrying too much about that when I am doing my assessment with my patient, because I don't have to worry about their home environment until we're discharging them. So it is different, and I am excited to see how I am excited to see the differences and similarities when I have my next placements.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. You've opened up my eyes just to the different differences in different placements, and I'm now looking forward to my placement even more than I was previously. We've just about to completed our SimPUs, our simulated placement week, which obviously you didn't get to do because you were on your early placement. And we've been going through tips, and we've spoken to lots of different tutors and physiotherapists about how to approach and how to do our placement. What would be your tips for people who are listening?
Right, gosh, there's so many. Okay, so try if you feel comfortable, try to, I mean, I'm sure many people will, but try to get on as well as you can with your educator, and try to build that rapport with them, because they're not, the educator will be there to support you throughout your placement, and this could be on a professional level and on a personal level. And I needed my educator to support me on both a professional level and a personal level, and she did an amazing job, because they're not only grading you, they are there to support you. So make sure that you try to build up a good rapport with them. Be as professional as you can. That's one of the things that you're going to be marked on, professionalism.
Yeah.
Try to be interested in other people within your team as well. Hopefully you will have a chance to speak to other professionals in the team, and definitely have the motivation to learn more about them, because you're going to need them in the setting. We all need each other. We're all going to need advice from the multidisciplinary team. So be open to learning more about them. What else? When there's cake in the office, don't shy away. You can eat the cake. It's absolutely fine. Even though we are encouraging people to live a very healthy and balanced life, we still need to enjoy a bit of cake here and there. So that's absolutely fine.
So far, the
so many
tips are: get on with your educator, expand to the rest of the team, and eat cake.
Yeah, and make sure you get
top 3 tips.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
That's fine. That's perfect. I think that I think there's lots of people on our course in our year, and who will be listening to this at some point now or in the future, who will run with those 3 tips, and long may that survive.
And obviously make sure that you get support from your peers when you're on placement. And remember, it's not a competition. You're not competing against your peers. So I was on a placement with one of our peers, and just remembering that you're not competing against your peer. You need to have your peer there for support. And grades aren't the be all or end all. As long as you are safe with your patient, and you don't do anything that's going to put your patient at high risk, then you're going to be doing a good job.
Fantastic. Nadia, thank you very much. I'm so proud of your what you've said to me about what you've explained to me in your placement. You were one of the brave ones who stepped out and went out first. So
thank you.
Congratulations. And I wish you luck for the rest of the summer, the rest of the year. Obviously, we are going to speak again. We are going to we're going to see each other very soon.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for coming.
No, you're welcome. Thank you.
So that was really great talking to Nadia. I really enjoyed it. I've had some time to reflect on it and listen to it again. And I said this to Nadia offline, but I just feel a real sense of pride in what she's achieved, and I'm sure what others have achieved as well, but what we've achieved as a group really so far this year. We came into this not knowing what the year was going to be like. Some of us had studied a bit before doing access courses and the thing, but we finished those. I finished mine at the end of March, beginning of April, and that's probably when I was going to finish in May anyway, so it wasn't much different really from what I was going to be doing. So we started this academic year not knowing what was going on, and we got through it, and some of us did really well in our exams. Some of us did as well as we expected to do. and we're through it now. We did our OSCEs, we did our exams. We're just about to start our placements, and I've, as I said at the beginning, I have a very overwhelming sense of pride towards Nadia for what she's achieved and what she's done, and I feel that for myself as well, and for all of you too. So thank you so much for listening. I know this is a bit clunky, this podcast. It's my first one. I hope that it's gone well. I hope that it meets your expectations, and I would love to hear from you about what you would like to see on the podcast, or listen to on the podcast rather, and what you would like to how you would like to interact with the podcast. If you want to be on the podcast and tell your story, or tell a portion of your story, then please let me know. I'd love to interview more of you and find out more about you as well, and that'd be absolutely fantastic. The next podcast is, I'm going to be recording it tomorrow morning. It's going to be with Adam Mountford, the current president of the Physiotherapy Society at King's, and he's in his final year, so he's the outgoing president of the society, and he's going to tell us more about himself and also the society as well. So if you do get a chance to listen to that, they're probably going to be uploaded at the same time, so if you do get a chance to listen to it, please do. It should be interesting, and I look forward to speaking to you over there.